What is up, my brothers and sisters, my agents of respect? It's your boy Trey Johnson back with another episode of the No Disrespect But podcast. Before we get started, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Always feel free to comment. Just make sure you keep those comments respectful. If you're interested in supporting your favorite podcaster, yours truly, the link to do so will be in the episode description. Also, want to give a shout out. I'm wearing Benedict College apparel, but shout out to them. But I want to give a shout out to the Georgia College men's baseball team. They're in the Division II NCAA tournament. Actually, just won their region, and so they're on to the next round. So, want to give a shout out to Coach Belcher and all his young men and season that they've had, and wish them the best. Keep going. Bring that ring back to Milledgeville. Also, want to have a shout out to the Lady Lions softball team, Southeastern Louisiana University. I know they're in a battle with Alabama right now, and they were losing last time I checked. But just want to shout out that program and what Coach Freeman has been able to build during his time there, getting the program to its first NCAA tournament appearance. So really, really excited about that. And hopefully they can make a comeback by the time I post this episode. But however the season ends, or whether it continues to go, just want to shout them out for just the foundation that has been built, and them being able to reap the rewards for being able to create such an amazing program. But today's episode is going to be, I'm thinking, want to do a little quick episode. Didn't see you guys on Tuesday, didn't see you guys on Friday. Just want to let you know I was alive. Just a busy week. Also tried some new things, and I'm going to talk about that towards the end of the show. Make sure you guys kind of know what's on the horizon for your favorite podcaster. Um, but, like I said, a lot of things happened this week. We had the NFL schedule release. We had the regular season tip off of the WNBA. And so that's well underway. And we're finishing up the first week. Some of our high caliber or high profile rookies came in. And so seeing how they adjust to the league, seeing some of our star players, and trust me, we'll definitely be talking about some of our star players in the dub as the season progresses. But today's episode just kind of wanted to focus on that NFL release and how it affects the New Orleans Saints, God's chosen franchise, and then just kind of a quick recap of the first week for Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and Cameron Brink, who again are some of the three of the high-profile picks that came in this year's WNBA draft. And there's a lot of noise kind of talking about their transition and what it's going to look like. And so I definitely want to touch on that for a little bit. But let's get to the NFL. And I want to start by saying, no disrespect, but the NFL lied. You want to know how they lied? Okay. Going into the season, we knew who the Saints are coming into the schedule release. We knew who the Saints were playing. We just didn't know when on the schedule they were going to play these teams, right? And when we were looking at it, everybody was saying, hey, Saints have the second easiest schedule based on record percentage in the NFL. And so the way they track it is they look at the team's records that you're playing and what it was the previous season, and they basically get their knowledge or make their predictions based on that. So not necessarily always taking into account new additions to the team, not taking into account departures from your own team. Obviously, you can't take into account injuries and things like that because we really haven't started the mandatory training camps. We haven't started the preseasons, things like that. And so I do want to put a caveat that what I'm saying right now is just my preliminary predictions of how the Saints will go based on what I know about the roster now, what I know about what we brought in, what I know about the teams that we're going to be playing, the locations like home, away, points in the season, all of that. So that kind of all factors into my decision making. But those types of things aren't held in high regard or aren't taken into account when they're talking about who has an easy schedule and who doesn't. And you want to know why I say that the NFL lied to us with whatever metric that they were going, talking about the Saints had the second easiest schedule in the league. First 8 games, 4 home, 4 away. They include matchups against the Cowboys on the road, the Eagles at home, I think the Chiefs at home, and the Browns and the Chargers. So those are some of the top teams in the league. I mean, Cowboys were a playoff team, Eagles playoff team, and 2 years ago, I guess is how you would calculate that. We're in the Super Bowl and a team that typically gives us some issues either way. The defending Super Bowl champions, two-time defending Super Bowl champions, Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes. You got the Browns and the defense that they bring, but also is Deshaun Watson going to be healthy? If he's not healthy, they have Jameis Winston waiting in the wings as the backup. Got the Chargers. Um, excuse me. You got the Chargers. I said the Browns. I meant the Broncos. Sorry. So with the Broncos, you got Sean Payton, and he drafted his quarterback Bo Nix. We know that the Denver defense they had some trouble early on in the season last year, but they found their rhythm towards the end of the year. Los Angeles Chargers bringing in Coach Harbaugh. You know what they got at the quarterback position. You know what they've been able to do to build up their defense, and so there's some really tough matchups, and I haven't even talked about our division rivals like the Atlanta Falcons who have made moves, and Carolina Panthers. We're playing them. Yes, they were a horrible team last year, but they could be a little bit better with a new coach in tow. Also, the Bucks, who have become a rival of late. So there are a lot of factors in our schedule, and I was just kind of looking at it like, where is it? Like, where is the easiest? Like, this is our first 8 games. And this could be a schedule, especially on the front end, where you know either you come out of it, maybe 3-5, or 4-4 if you're lucky. I think if you're 2-6, I think some people are starting to get let go. And in that time frame, probably our head coach, probably our OC, things like that. But I think you make yourself 3-5, or you, by the grace of God, get out of that stretch 500 at 4-4. It does have a little area, probably I think the next 3 or 4 weeks, where it eases up a bit. And you can see, maybe winning 2 or 3 of those games. And now you're trying to finish the season fighting for a playoff spot, right? But this is also a schedule that if you start off slow, the way especially our offense started off slow last year, you could find yourself being 2-6, or 1-7, or 0-8, honestly, if you're sleeping on some of your opponents like the Panthers, who you're opening up the season against. So a lot's at stake in these games. But even in that little stretch I kind of talked about, it maybe 3 or 4 games where it eases up, there's also points in the schedule where we play the Cleveland Browns, play the Los Angeles Rams, play the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau in the wintertime. I don't know who made that schedule. We played them last year in Lambeau. I don't know how we don't get that home game this year, but whoever scheduled the Saints to have to play in cold ass Green Bay in December, uh, I need to talk to you, because I'm not a fan of that. I'm not happy about that. But hopefully, being in this type of offense with Clint Kubiak coming in, and they say he's going to focus a lot on the run game. I know the last time he was an offensive coordinator, the running back position actually took a dip in terms of production. So we'll see how that works when it comes to Alvin Kamara and his running back crew, with Kendra Miller and Jamal Williams, and maybe some guys who may, uh, make themselves known throughout the offseason training and everything like that. So as I looked at it, to me, I was like, I'm looking at 9-8. Like, that's my realistic prediction. And I kind of say there is a strong possibility that they can get 10 or 11. I mean, if everything falls in their favor, if Clint Kubiak is who fans are saying or and hoping he will be, if Derek Carr can play more like him, more like he did in the last 5 games, preferably against the teams we were losing, but like if he can play better against some of the best teams in the league, because he kind of sucked against some of the best teams in the league last year. But if he can kind of be on par with how he finished the season, those last 5 games where we went 4-1, I believe, you could see something. Things could change. Maybe run the ball a little bit more. That helps out the offensive line. I do trust that Dennis Allen is going to have the defense be the defense. I say 9-8. I know some folks that say 8-9, 7-10, which I can see. Some people are saying 6 wins or less. I just don't see that. Like, I think the Saints are talented enough. They're kind of in that state that the Saints have always been when we weren't Like we're usually either a dominant team or we're a mediocre team. So a team that's and when we're a mediocre team, we're a team that isn't good enough to compete in the playoffs, right? But they're not bad enough to get you a top, 5 pick in the NFL draft and maybe get a culture changing pick with that, right? And in the last 25 years, they've only finished with 6 wins or less than 7 wins twice. That was the year removed from trading all of your draft picks for Ricky Williams. So we didn't have a team that we could build, right? We went, I think, 3-13 that year. And then we went 3-13 the Katrina year and being displaced. Obviously, players were worrying about their families and what was going on at their homes. They're living out of hotels and things like that. So it took pretty much some drastic things to happen for the Saints to bottom out like that. And I just think that's kind of where we are. We're nothing unless we're decimated by injuries, even more than we have been the past, maybe 5 years or so. If we're defense takes a severe step back where they're not top 10, they're more so 20 to 25 if the offense doesn't get right. If somebody, key gets injured, right? That's when I can see the Saints kind of really going belly up and finishing with, maybe 5-4 wins, something like that. So I just don't see the Saints being that bad, but I also, in my heart of hearts, can't confidently say that they're that good to really put them at the top tier teams of the NFC. And when I said, there's a strong possibility that they can go 10 or 11, that's just kind of looking at the schedule. If we have the injury luck we had last year where, you're thinking you're about to play a high profile quarterback and they get injured or something like that, you might have a chance, So it's football. It's any given Sunday, right? So you never know what can happen. I'm already having them at 9 wins, so it wouldn't be a stretch. The same way it wouldn't be a stretch to say they can finish 7-10. It really shouldn't be a stretch to say they can finish 11-6. It's a 2-win difference or 2-loss difference either way. The number is 2, right? So whether you're 2 under or 2 over, it's in the realm of possibility. And not everybody comprehends that. It's as if you can't have a prediction, but then also have something that says, hey, like if things go well, there is a likelihood that there is a pathway to this. But you know, uh, the whole George Bush "No Child Left Behind," I can guarantee you that there were a lot of children left behind, and it is showing itself on Twitter. So there is that. But as I'm looking now, 9-8. There could be some signings. I know Justin Simmons is still out there. I think the Saints had a really good draft this year. So if those rookies start to really show us some things in camp and maybe start to establish themselves as an early contributor, right? We can see some things. If let's say Derek Carr struggles early, the first 4 or 5 games. We might be 1-4, 2-3, or whatever it might be. And Clint Kubiak walks into Dennis Allen's office and says, "Hey, we drafted a guy that I gave the playbook to before I even knew we were going to get him. I trust him. I want him to run my offense, being Spencer Rattler." Or, hey, maybe Jake Hayner steps up in the offseason training camps and things like that and in preseason, and he's the guy. And it's like Clint saying, "Hey, we got to give one of these young guys a chance. Hell, it's probably our best chance to save our jobs if they provide a spark. We can say, hey, we found our franchise guy. We can roll with that. Everything wasn't pretty, but we can really start from baseline, building around these guys. And hell, guess what? My regime, Dennis Allen, drafted him. I drafted Jake Hayner. I traded up for Jake Hayner. I drafted Spencer Rattler. So I have an eye for talent. You've seen what I've done on the defensive end in terms of bringing talent. And now I'm starting to showcase that, hey, I know how to get out of the way. I know how to let the scouts do their job, trust them. And I think we can really build. We won't have a high figure at the quarterback position. You can use those monies to help other areas kind of beef that up. Who knows what can happen? But I mean, if you suck, I think everybody loses their job. You're getting a new coach, getting new coordinators, getting probably a new quarterback if Jake and or Spencer have not proved themselves, right? They're fourth and fifth round picks, respectfully, or fifth and fourth round picks, respectively, in the way I ordered it. Um, if they haven't proved themselves that they can do something in this league, well, you know, they're going to go get a new quarterback anyway. So there's a lot at stake this season for New Orleans Saints. And again, it's early. you're making predictions in May. Obviously, you guys know you're going to have more of a well-informed opinion right before the season starts because we'll know injuries, we'll know all these types of things going on in the league, and we'll do this for the Saints, but we'll also kind of talk about all of the playoff teams, and what we think is going to happen. Now I want to transition to, again, last week was the opening week for the WNBA, and coming off an exciting season where they had the highest viewership they had in years, had the highest viewership in the WNBA finals in years. And then you have some phenomenal young women coming into the league this year from the college game that we knew were going to bring some eyes to the game. I know Caitlin Clark's debut had 2.1 million viewers, which was the highest ever, I believe, or in the past 24 years or something like that. Um, so really cool what's going on in the WNBA right now. And there was a lot of talk coming into the season of what the transition was going to be like, especially for Caitlin Clark. And you had some people over exaggerating on both spectrums of she's going to suck, she's going to be awful, she's going to find out that this is really hard. Then you had some people that are like, nah, she's going to keep dominating the way she did at Iowa. She's going to be scoring 30 points a game, all this type of thing. Now, keep in mind, only 5 players scored over 20 points per game last year in the WNBA. So just the pace, the things that happen, that we're probably not going to see that yet, where you have multiple players averaging 30 points per game or high 20s like we do in the NBA. I think just like them, the WNBA, as you get some of these younger players in, there's going to be some pace changes as well. Game's going to be a lot faster. You'll see a lot more scoring. I think naturally you'll start having more and more 30-point per game or high 20-point per game scores. But like I said, I think there were people that were extreme on both spectrums. And the reality was there was going to be a learning curve for Caitlin and all athletes and all the young women coming in, because there is. When you go from college to pro, just like when you graduate college as a student and you go into the workforce, there's a transition. It doesn't matter how great of a student you were in college, right? You still got to go work. It's now you're competing and working with professionals that do this for a living. They have families to support. So, you know, where if you made a mistake in practice in college, you probably got, you got probably fussed at, but not to a certain degree where like, oh, that's still the best player. We'll keep it easy. Nah, in the WNBA, you have people that are doing this for a living. This is how they're feeding their family. So they're not going to be waiting around for you to get it. You just got to get it. But Caitlin's been pretty good. I mean, she's had some struggles. The Indiana Fever are still winless. And I mean, look, if you're a team that has earned back-to-back number one picks and top 2 picks in 3 of the last 4 WNBA drafts, you got some work to do. You're not going to come in and be great. Just like, Wemby wasn't going to come into the San Antonio Spurs and just automatically make them a perennial playoff contender. There's going to be work. There's going to be some figuring it out, especially when you've had top picks on your team. So their roles, where they were kind of drafted in positions, right, to be stars of somewhat, and then you get this megastar or these megastars. How does that work, and how do they bond together? But so Caitlin's, played really well to a degree, not quite herself, but I think again she'll get to it. She did recently, after 3 games, join some pretty good company in Candace Parker, who's the real CP3, Sue Bird, Nikki McRae. They're the only players in WNBA history to score 50 points, 50 or more points, and 15 plus assists in their first 3 games. So already Caitlin is putting herself in really good company. I will say turnovers are plaguing her right now in the WNBA. But if you looked at her collegiate career, turnovers plagued her then, especially in moments where Iowa was playing maybe the better roster and there was more pressure on Caitlin to deliver. And so you saw those turnovers kind of tick up in those games. I mean, she had 10 turnovers in her debut. I believe she had 8 this last game where they lost. So there is some turnover issues that I think will clean itself out a little bit, because some of those are her teammates aren't catching the ball. They're getting used. Like, here's the thing: they haven't had a lot of time to practice together. Okay, like Caitlin came from college, did all the off season stuff, the draft, training camp. They haven't had a lot of time. So uh, I think as they build more chemistry together, they'll be fine. And they'll know where, the spots they need to be in. She'll know the spots that they like to be in, that type of thing. Her 3-point shooting has been a little shaky as well, but again, you can tell that she's figuring it out. Um, and I think relatively soon you'll see her start to be closer to the Caitlin Clark we saw in college. Not quite as dominant. I mean, right now averaging 17 points a game, 6 assists, but 7 turnovers. Whereas in her career at Iowa, it was 28 points per game, 8 assists, 5 turnovers. And so when you average 5 turnovers in college, now averaging 7 turnovers in the pros, that's not surprising to me. So I think, we're going to see that those point per games get up to about 22, 23. I think the assists are probably good where they are, but I can see her, especially if she gets to learn her teammates, maybe kind of get into that 8, 9 range. And then the turnovers, look, if you can get those turnovers to about 4 or 5 a game, I think you're doing pretty well in terms of keeping your team ahead. And look, I do think the Fever, when I'm watching, I don't think the coach needs to be fired. I think people are being unreasonable, but I do think that there has to be a level of utilizing Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston, the last two #1 overall picks, a little bit more, making them the focal points of the offense, having the ball in Caitlin Clark's hands, having her run pick and roll action with Aaliyah Boston. Those are your two best players. Look, I hate this notion that, oh, we drafted this person #1 overall, and we just have to be slow and easy with them. They need to get it, and they need to learn how to work with their teammates. They're playing with some of the better team. Look, I get it. I said it, when she was in college. Hey, she's not going to have to do as much when she gets to the WNBA because she is going to have more talented teammates, right? But at the same time, don't defer to teammates that were on a roster that had the #1 overall pick in back-to-back years. There has to be a level of Caitlin has a green light, Aaliyah has a green light. These are your two best players, and they need to be featured as such. And I think you probably treat the first 5 to 10 games as another training camp. You're getting your systems in. You're learning where your players are. So I say give the head coach grace. I think she knows who her two best players are. And I think as the season progresses, you'll notice that. Again, I just want to insert the Spurs in this. I think they knew that Wimby and Devin were the best players, especially from an offensive standpoint. But it took some time for them to then start running some Devin and Wimby pick and roll actions and things like that, and they had a pretty good into the year where you created some momentum for the fan base, right? And I think that's what we're going to see with Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston. And, you know, I'm going to go to Angel Reese now because she really highlights what I'm kind of saying in terms of how rookies translate and how well they're really doing. Look, I think too many times we look at, are they scoring a lot of points? Is it really efficient? And we don't look at some of the things that, hey, these are something you really did well in college. And I'm seeing you kind of do some of these things pretty consistently at the professional level. And when it comes to Angel, who, by the way, congratulations, Angel, uh, her and her Chicago Sky actually picked up their first win of the season. So she got her first career win versus the Dallas Wings. And look, her shot efficiency is evolving. And look, when we saw her in college, there were times where it was a struggle to finish over taller players. The first 3 games they've had, I believe, have been versus 6'7", 6'8" bigs. And Angel's about 6'4". So honestly, really for the first time in a long time, she's undersized, or she is the one that's mismatched from a height perspective. But guess what? She's still doing things in her own way. Scoring was always something that about her game that was going to be polished over time to where she might be an unstoppable force. We know what she can do around the rim, but also, having that mid range in her bag, being able to step out for a three. Those are going to be things that really take her to the next level in her career. But guess what? We always knew she would have, right? The rebounding. And people are saying, oh, she's going to come in and she's not going to be able to bang with these grown women. And yeah, guess what? She can bang with them. In their win against the Wings, she had 7 offensive boards by herself. So this whole notion that she can't come in and compete was ridiculous to begin with. And so much like Caitlin, I think Angel is showing things that she did well. We've seen uh, some instances where she's getting rebounds, she's taking it coast to coast, she's making some phenomenal passes to her teammates. Guess what? Yeah, she's averaging 12 points per game, 9 rebounds, and guess what? Those points are going to tick up at some point. But right now, Coach T Spoon isn't asking Angel to be a focal point as a scorer. She's saying, Angel, hey, you are my anchor on defense. I need you to attack the boards. I need you to give us um, additional opportunities to score. So if one of your teammates misses a shot, hey, we're entrusting you to get good position, good rebound position. Give us another chance at getting another efficient shot. We're asking you to be a phenomenal passer out of the post. We're asking you, hey, we're not going to tell you, hey, when you get a rebound, find the guard. No, we're going to entrust your strengths. Hey, if you get a rebound and you have a go. We trust you to make that pass. We trust you to make that right play. And so these are things that I think as the season evolves, you're going to see Angel putting up those 2020 games that we're accustomed to. But she's kind of learning her speed, her pace. But she knows what she does really, really well, and that's rebounding on the defensive and especially on the offensive end, providing extra opportunities for her teammates. And I like to think when Cardosa comes back, who's out with an injury, it's going to be even better. It's going to take a lot of pressure off of Angel offensively and defensively and what she can do. And she'll definitely have a lot of mismatches on both ends of the floor and being able to dominate that. So really looking forward to what she's doing. And the other rookie I want to talk about is Cameron Brink. Again, just averaging 7 points, 5 rebounds, but she is showcasing a versatility that, I mean, I get it. Against with coach at Stanford, she's not going to want her bigs going coast to coast and handling the ball at the top. That's just not her style. That's not her game or what she wants to see. You're a big, you get the rebound, you get it to the guard, right? But Cameron has been able to come in, show some flashes of what she can do as a ball handler, making some plays from the top and getting into her teammates. Obviously, showing she can do as a 3-point shooter. Actually, currently shooting 40% from the 3-point line. Now, 39% from the field. Again, I think as they grow off, as she grows her offensive game, she's going to get a lot more efficient, especially around the rim. I mean, coming into draft night, they asked her, "Hey, what are some things you have to work on?" She said, "Hey, I know I got to work on my offense a little bit more. I know there's some polish in there, but you are going to get one of the best defenders in this draft. I know I can do that day one." And guess what? She is not a liar. Not one lie was told. Averaging almost 4 blocks per game right now in the first three. And guess what she did well in college? Defend. She's the reigning defensive player of the year in college. So, you know, some people are saying, hey, you know, the WNBA is out to get them. Why would you give them these matchups early on, or why aren't they playing? I heard somebody say, why aren't they having the Indiana Fever play jobber teams, which is basically meaning a team you can get an easy win over. Newsflash, and I saw somebody said the Fever are the easy win. They are the easy win. It doesn't matter if they got a generational talent, right? They are still the easy win. People look at them on the calendar and say, that's a win in our book. Guess what? As much as I love the Spurs, they were seen as an easy win, even with Wimby. And they had to, even though they only won 20 games, right? They had to showcase that, hey, we're going to make it hard on you. And I think that that's what we're seeing with all three of these young ladies in their respective teams. And again, Angels team picked up their first win. The Sparks and the Fever are still looking for their first win. But this notion that, oh, the league is out to get them, the veterans are out to get them. Like, no, they are professional athletes. They're wanting to win the game. They're doing the best thing that they can to win the game. But here's the thing. I can also say that we are seeing things done, especially defensively, to Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, that you don't normally see get done to rookies. You see that type of defense on MVPs if you're lucky. I mean, I'm seeing Angel Wilson get single coverage. I'm seeing Stewie get single coverage, and they're MVPs. And you're seeing blitzes on screen with Caitlin Clark. You're seeing, when she wants to go one on one, there's 2 and 3 bodies in help position, forcing her to either take a three or pass the ball. Angel Reese, you got to put two or three bodies on her. I guarantee you, we're talking about she's at 12 points per game now. If you by chance decide I'm going to have my big play Angel Reese one-on-one, that is going to be barbecue chicken. You are going to be in for a 25 to 30 point a night performance. And that's going to be your fault as a coach for not game planning that better. So here's the thing. Would I love to see Caitlin Clark get one-on-one coverage? Would I love to see Angel Reese get one-on-one coverage? I would, yes. But the likelihood, like the other team wants to win. They understand that these young ladies are the best players on the team, even as rookies, right? So they want to do these things to win the game. That's what it's about. It's not about let them cook, let them look good. That's going to bring. No, we want to see the grind. We want to see them come in and take those early bruises and then build themselves up to be some of the best we've ever seen in the game. But again, this notion that everybody wants them to fail, no, they just want to win. They just want to win, and that's the bottom line. That's what this game is about. Um, and here's the thing: we got to understand that these are rookies, and I talked about these three, but there are a lot of rookies. Only think 33% of the rookies that were drafted are on a roster. They got it. So please keep that in mind, okay? That it is hard. This is the best league in the world for women's basketball. And so it's going to be tough. It's going to be a grind. And these rookies coming in, they haven't really had they've had zero offseason. Think about it. I'll just keep using the three. Cameron Brink, Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark. All three made it far in the NCAA tournament. Angel and Caitlin made it to the Final Four. Caitlin made it to the national championship. So, or was it? I think they both made it to the Elite Eight to get to the Final Four. That's what it was. And then Caitlin made it to the national championship. And guess what? Then it's national championship. Start going to work out to train for the WNBA. Some of them were actually doing Team USA because it was Team USA practice. Some of them were participating in that, right? Then it's WNBA draft, and then it's training camp. And some of them couldn't even make it to their graduation because they're in training camp. They got no time to rest their bodies, no time to just debrief from their collegiate careers. It was right into the fire. So we do have to give them some grace. Again, I think the first 10 games or so of a 34 game season, I think it is now, um, it takes them time. They got to get used to it. They got to get used to their teammates. I mean, they literally just met these people yesterday and vice versa. Let them get acclimated. Like, I get it. These are the most talented people in the world. But guess what? Chemistry is still important, right? They still need to build their rapport with one another. And then we'll start to see things truly happening. But until that happens, I mean, we got to give them that grace period. And I want to finish off with this is that if you watch the games, right? And look, I ran off a lot of stats and everything like that, but I do want to encourage everyone to watch the games because when you watch the games, you see that they are showcasing the things that made them elite prospects. Cameron Brink showcasing how phenomenal she is defensively. Angel Reese showcasing how phenomenal she is on both ends of the floor and how she can dominate the boards. And if you can dominate the boards, you can dominate the game. Word to Kawhi, the board man gets paid. Caitlin Clark, the way she could gravitate just the defensive attention and get the ball to her teammates and allow them to succeed. And guess what? She is going to be playing with better players. And so they have to step up with those opportunities when it's granted them. You're seeing her ability to still create space and get some good looks from three. Now she's going to be learning, hey, you didn't really take that mid-range two in college. We're going to need you to take that mid-range two in this league. You know, we're going to need you to be a little bit better on defense because you can't hide in this league. So there's going to be some things that they can work on. But again, if you watch them, they are doing some of the things that made them great in college, brought odds to the women's game, and honestly, what's going to change the landscape of women's professional basketball for years to come. Just be patient with them. It's happening. So watch the games, stay off Twitter and people's opinions, stop box score watching. There's context behind the stats. Look at them. And that's how you can truly know what the players have to work on, some of the things they're doing well, some of the things you'd like to see them do better. And I think they will. And they're setting the standard for some of the ladies coming in, of where you might want to be. So you're seeing what's going on. Use your college season to prepare for the dub. And I get it. Coach Gino says it best at UConn. His job is to win games, not to prepare players for the WNBA. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think, yes, you're supposed to win games, but I think you're also supposed to prepare them for the next level, just like it's a professor's job to prepare you for the next level. So they're not just going to, I read the textbook. I read the textbook to them. No, they're going to want to make sure you're in a position to apply it to the professional world. So as a basketball coach, I think your job is to provide these players with skills to then apply in the professional world. But that's a topic for another day. Um, as I close, I want to make sure I tell you guys about this new opportunity that I'm taking on. It does not affect No But Disrespect or No Disrespect But podcast. I assure you that. We are still going to be hitting up on Tuesdays and Fridays. That's probably going to change towards the fall, but that's just the nature of work, not so much this new venture. But about a couple of weeks ago, man, a good friend of mine reached out. You know, we kind of talked on Twitter. We were in college at the same time, but just happened to miss each other. I was a senior; he's a freshman, so that kind of checks out. But reaches out to me, man, has a podcast on his own. He's like, hey, man, we talk about sports all the time on Twitter. You know, we agree on some things, we disagree on some things, but I think we could make a great partnership. And you know, I thought about it and I said, you know what? Yeah, we can. And look, I think opportunities, I take everything as an opportunity, and I think they come to us for a reason. And so I'm going to be partnering with Tay. He's Tay Visuals on Twitter/X. So make sure you guys give him a follow. And we are starting a new podcast called the Bayou Boys Podcast. Now, we're still going with names. We did our first episode last week. So look, it's still a work in progress, man. But we're going to be focusing on NFL and NBA pretty much exclusively. It's going to be really good. One of the best sports podcasts that's going to be coming out. Definitely appreciate y'all's support for this. Keep supporting, no disrespect, but also make sure you guys are looking out for the Bayou Boys podcast. We're going to be shooting episodes every Wednesday, releasing that to you guys. And it's going to be fun. I mean, we got some interesting segments. We're actually going to release our first segment in that this week. And so excited to reveal that. But man, it's going to be fun. And so really excited about this opportunity. I think it's always good to make relationships in this podcast game. There's no reason why we can't do both. If you have the time and you have the capacity to do it, take on every opportunity you can. And so, really looking forward to this venture. Again, no disrespect, but it's still going to be taking place on Tuesdays and Fridays. But make sure every Wednesday tap into the Bayou Boys podcast. You're going to be able to find us on YouTube, Spotify, pretty much anywhere you get your podcast, whether visually or hearing wise. You got to tune in because it's going to be fun, and we're going to have a lot of fun doing it, and really looking forward to this new venture. Now, that being said, if there's anything that I said that offended anyone, that is a good thing. It's an opportunity for me to learn, and it's an opportunity for you to teach me. All I ask is that you keep it respectful. Peace.